Hi, and welcome to Annoyed Kitten and this week's Drachenwald Files. And today I am going to let you introduce yourself with your titles and name, so I don't get anything wrong.
I am the Honourable Lord Guy de Dinan, of currently residing in Flint Heath in the Principality of INsulae Draconis. And for once, I'm not holding any offices, which is great.
You're not?
I know.
Gasp. So, and also, people will probably ask why the glitter. Well, it's St. Lucia Day when we're doing this interview, and I am wearing glitter because I'm a Swede. Anyhow, so back to the interview. Guy, my dear friend, how did you end up in the SCA? And what is your first strong memory that's when you get hooked?
Ooh. First bit is easy. It's my mother-in-law's fault. When myself and Constanza got together, just after we got married, my mother-in-law said, "Oh, there's this really cool medieval club I used to be a member of in the 1980s. Why don't you go and check them out? They're meeting in a pub in London. Why don't you go pop along?" So we did, and there was a small group of fellow medieval enthusiasts all sitting in the pub. We got chatting away. This was when Thames Reach was on its way back up on one of its expansion periods. And that was with Geneviève and co, and walked out of the meeting as the deputy seneschal, as you do.
Like you do.
Indeed. Yeah, and that was in 2007, if I remember correctly. So we've been playing about 12, 13, maybe even 14 years in the mists of time. When did I realise I was really into it? We did have the benefit of that autumn's winter time of being able to, no, that was the summer, of being able to attend Drachenwald's 15 year, which was held at a scout camp in Essex. And yes, that was really, I got introduced to the sort of like hospitality of Thomas and Edith and various other people, and it was really, really pleasant, absolutely fascinating. Took part, because I was doing Olympic fencing since I was a kid, so I fell in with the fencing crowd very, very quickly. And I think that was my first time I was ever on the field before I was even authorised. Well, technically authorised, but it was good fun. And that went from there. The food was great. The people were great. It was good cheer. And that's what grabbed me and brought me in was pretty much the social side of things.
Is that also what's keeping you, or what is keeping you to stay in our society?
It has to be the social, yes. Lockdown has pretty much nuked my fencing and my archery, but it's definitely the social, definitely the people. I mean, there have been times when I've been really frustrated with the society, and it has been the people and the friends and social contacts that have basically kept me going.
And you just did, you were part of the AutoCAD group that did Kingdom University. Thank you. I love that event so much because even if it was online, it gave me a little bit of that feeling back with, the connection with people.
It was a great team. Katrina as KU Chancellor had the vision. I had the nuts and bolts. Yannick did an amazing job pulling all the IT together and making it all feel fairly seamless, despite the fact that we're using multiple platforms. Turi, Shirin, Henrik, especially with the social media, and there was a cast of hundreds. If you saw the closing credits, which are now online, you'll see that there is a list of easily 100 people who are involved in some way and shape and form, pulling that together. We wanted a legacy out of the event. We wanted the event to feel as close to being an actual event as possible. Not faulting the styles of other KUs, but some of them were literally just turn up, log in, watch, go away. We wanted for social. We wanted some humour. We wanted the ability for people to just kick back, because we know that people get zoomed out. It's a lot of effort to concentrate on 5-6 hours worth of lectures online. So we wanted people to have the ability to just simply stand back a bit, but still feel part of the organization, and that's what Discord provided. And we wanted it to be a bit light-hearted, so we had the tavern, we had the lost and found, we had the castles for sale, and it worked. People came back to us, and I have to say, at the closing ceremony, it was a hoot watching the gallery view of people realizing just what we'd just done with the music.
Oh yes, Yannick kind of whammed us all.
And Rickroll.
But it wasn't the 1st of December, and also
we know. We knew that.
Yeah.
We deliberately used a cover to avoid that situation. We know the rules.
But it was hilarious.
Which is why you got a Rickroll right at the end with Rick Astley.
That too. I don't think I ever got Rickrolled during an event before. No, you all did such a good job, and like I said, it gave me a lot of feeling back, as much feeling as you can have when it comes to online interaction, because of course you cannot have, sitting down next to a person and sharing drinks with them, but it still gave us a little bit of that. So thank you for that. And now I know that you are, I don't want to say foolish enough, but yeah, foolish enough that you are planning another big event that comes later in spring.
It's not that big. We're probably only about a third of the size of the KU, and it's only one day. Next year, it's the 560th anniversary of the major campaign in the Wars of the Roses, the English Wars of the Roses. It's also the 550th of the most decisive campaign. So you got the 1461 campaign, which started with the Battle of Mortimer's Cross. You had the Battle of St. Albans, and you had the Battle of Towton, which was actually the most bloodiest battle on English soil ever. You do not see that level of casualty rate until the First World War. It's also the 550th of Barnet, when Warwick the Kingmaker was killed, and the Battle of Tewkesbury, when they finally killed Edward, Prince of Wales, and secured Edward IV's reign on the throne until his death, and his unfortunate brother Richard III came along. So it's a great hook to talk about all things 15th century, not just English 15th century, but we will be looking at other areas. And we reckon we'll have about 18 classes, and I've got about 12 of them offered already. So we will be looking at earlier in the period. So we'll be looking at Catherine of Pizan and Joan of Arc. We'll be looking at Margaret of Anjou and also Margaret Beaufort. And also the key roles they played in that period's history.
I can't wait. Then I have had some questions from other people that they wanted to ask you. And the first one is, which Robin Hood film or TV series is best, and why?
Of all of the films that I like of Robin Hood, I like Robin and Marion, the Sean Connery version, it's deliberately downbeat. It actually concentrates on sort of like the mortality of being a hero and the consequences. And it's a lot more thoughtful than sort of like the jingoistic jamborees of others. For Russell Crowe version, his accent is more distracting than the archery. And I grew up on the series Robin of Sherwood, the one with Clannad as the soundtrack, which was great at the time, and lots of English and British actors go through that series. So you got Richard O'Brien turns up later on, and Jason Connery, Sean Connery's son, takes the title character, but it hasn't aged well.
No,
it really has not aged well, which is unfortunate, because sometimes it's best not to revisit your childhood memories. It's begging for a remake. I mean, if ever I win the lottery, I might turn around to BBC and say, please, you've done it for His Dark Materials. Surely you can do it for Robin Hood.
So next question. Are there a craft, an art and science, something within the art and science that you never have tried but really want to?
I think leatherworking. I've got the tools, but I've never sat down and actually physically done it. I've sort of like poked holes in bits of leather before and not really got any further than that. Yet people can create some amazing pieces of leatherworking in the society. I mean, people are wandering around with things like costrals, and I'm looking at how they make it, and it's like, I wish I could do that. Maybe I could, but there's only so many hours in a day, unfortunately.
Yeah, I was just going to say, well, you probably could. It's just a matter of having the time. But with you organizing online events and all that, I guess the time is a bit limited.
Also, I've got my brewing, so quite concentrating on my brewing and trying to sort of like improve on that one.
So what would you like to see more of during our events? And now, of course, I guess we talk both the online events and in real life events that we hopefully will have at least for summer or after that.
More of. It's a difficult one, because funnily enough, I've come to realize that we expect too much from our events. We try and put too much into the events. I've seen events basically be over-programmed, which doesn't allow for any flexibility on the day if things go wrong, or course overruns, or feast is a bit delayed. I'd like to see more period-focused events, which is why I'm doing a 15th century one. Everyone bangs on about the 14th being one true century, but some of us are fans of other periods. I'd like to see more openness and friendliness to new people, and there are discussions going on about how best to do this. I've seen it where first-time members come along, they get welcomed, then people forget about them. So we're good at welcoming. I don't think we're that good at just keeping tabs or buddying up and making sure that that if anyone's sitting on their own and looking very confused at feast, go over and say hello to them. Because we're very good at coming together in our friendship groups, and sometimes that gives the society a bit of a cliquish feeling. We're an organisation at the end of the day. Yes, we have our friends and we have our friendship circles, but we are also an organisation that's about our members in general. And I'd like to see a little bit more help on that. One of the things that is being talked about in various circles is having a welcome coordinator or a first timers buddy type person actually as part of the organising committee. So right from the word go, you are thinking about having a capacity to welcome and be friendly and make sure that someone's having a good time. You're not a babysitter, but just to make sure that they're not feeling lost, they're not feeling lonely, they're not that they can reach out to you, and they know who to reach out to. And I'd like to see more of that at events.
Yeah, I agree with you there. I have seen that we are very good at welcoming people, and during the first event, people tend to get a lot of help and like, oh, this is the new first time for you, and just please tell me how I can help you and so on. And then after a couple of events, we tend to lose them a little bit because they stop being new, but they are still not a part of.
They're yet to find what their speciality is.
Exactly, they haven't really found their group. Some does that already the first event, but we do have people that maybe need a little bit more help. So that is absolutely something that I will take with me for future events and think about, because I think that is important to make sure that people keep on coming.
I mean, one of the things that was a success for us at KU was the Discord. We had about 600 people sign up for the event, but Discord had over nearly 300 of them sign up to Discord. So we knew that we were talking to nearly half of our membership, of our attendees. We weren't expecting that much. We were only expecting 10, 15, 20%. The most effective element for me was actually having a specific ask the event staff. Anyone who had a query, who felt lost, who needed to know something, knew exactly where to go. We decided not to have it with some fancy medieval speak title. It had to be very clear what it was, and that was successful. And I do think sometimes we trip ourselves up with our jargon. So I think for new people, we need to be a lot clearer with our language of what things actually mean. Who knows that this Chatelain is the newcomer type person? Who knows that?
Yeah, we have a lot within our society. We do have a lot of specific words for specific things that isn't like normal, modern, simple speech. We tend to complicate the words because it's give us the feel of medieval or Renaissance.
Yeah.
And I guess that sometimes
who's medieval?
Well, we are a medieval society, but sometimes I think that could be a little threshold that people need to get over, and they will not be able to get over that until they actually get help, because how would you know?
Exactly.
Moving on, speaking about online events and the pandemic, I usually ask people, how have you handled the pandemic? We kind of know that you have made events, online events.
It was very early on. There was a feeling that it's like, what the hell do we do now? When the lockdown hit the UK, and I figured that why not do things like Cook's Corner. So I got that up and running. It was only like once every 6 weeks or so, but also realised that you could hit these events cold. I wanted them to actually be people getting together and cooking together, and the idea came up with the idea that we actually have a social just before the actual event, so that people can discuss and get inspired and look up ideas, ask questions. Where do I find a recipe for pork? Where do I find a recipe for pottage? Oh, I remember that dish from that feast several years ago. Where do I find a recipe? That got people up and running and enthusiastic, because when I was Seneschal of Thames Reach, one of our core local events was the Revel, and it was a potluck revel, and we got to the point where most people were bringing in a medieval dish. We had to send food back home, because even when 10, 20, 30 people turn up with their own food, you still end up over catering. And I wanted that feeling back, and I know that some people, if they when they turn up on the event, they've forgotten about it, or they've been too busy, they'll just nip down to the local store, buy some bread and cheese, job done. But I wanted people to be enthusiastic about cooking. I wanted people to understand that it's actually very easy to get into medieval cooking. But it needed that enthusiasm. It needed that firing up. So for Monday before the event, everyone got together online, chatted, drank, talked about ideas. And then on the following Saturday or Sunday, we had a Zoom open for about 5-6 hours. People dropped in, dropped out, people cooked, people talked about the cooking, people showed off what they brought, what they previously cooked. And it's kept a lot of people interested in cooking. I mean, I had to hand that one off because of Kingdom University. I'm hoping it will return in the new year. And hopefully we'll have more action that way.
I think it was lovely. I wasn't part of the cooking myself because reasons, but I enjoyed the discussion around it, and like you said, it's put a fire in people to want to do something. I think that is very important.
It certainly paid off in Kingdom University with Amphile's feast menu, because again, we wanted the feast element of an event, and people enjoyed it. People tried out the recipes, came and talked about it, and we effectively could declare that we had an online feast.
I mean, it's as good as it can get. I mean, we are eating the same food, and yes, we are sitting at our computers, but we are still able to enjoy eating food and discussing and talk about food. I have been talking food with other people in other interviews before, and we have concluded that food connects people.
Yes.
So I think it's a very good job that you have been doing there. And Amphilis she put on a very fun what do you call it? Menu.
Yes.
Sorry, words is a thing today. Continuing with the pandemic a bit, we doesn't seem to be able to stop talking about it because it's affecting us so much. Looking at the future, I mean, we are now hoping that for at least after summer, we will be able to have some kind of events again, perhaps not go full scale at the beginning, but going back to what we think is a normal event. What do you think that we can take with us? What do you think we can, how do you think that this pandemic have changed our hobby?
I think it has, and I hate to say this as a geographer, it has broken down the geographies. I don't think we need to recover from that because certainly I like popping over, visiting other online events. I think we will still see online events. There'll be still a lot of experimentation. There'll be a lot of trial and error, mostly error. And I think I'm quite pleased to have seen the way the Kingdom Curia worked online, because there's nothing more that I get irritated about than having a weekend event where most of that weekend is taken up with business meetings.
Yeah.
Whether it's because I've been to coronations where I've spent nearly £200, which I don't know, is that 2,500 krona? I don't know what the exchange rate
is. Yeah, 2,000 something. Yeah.
Yeah, getting there, paying it for the event fee, probably some ancillaries, booze, that sort of thing, and then see most of the senior members of the club disappear into rooms for most of a Saturday afternoon, and I'm thinking, what's the value for money for them? What's the value for money for the royalty? Okay, they've got a travel fund, but why have they come from, for example, Sweden to north of England to sit in a room and talk business? That's not an event. That's a business meeting. You might as well hold that in the airport.
And I also think, sorry for interrupting, but I also think here we're going back to where ours talk about the newcomers. They see people disappearing, sitting in secret meetings. Sometimes they are not so secret, but
exactly.
But it disappears, and you don't feel like you're part of that. And I think that can be a little. I think that can be a little off-putting for some newcomers.
It is, I have noticed that, and I've had newcomers when I was Shetland for the Principality. I did have newcomers coming up and asking, "What's this meeting? Am I meant to be at it? Is this part of my game?" And I had to explain it to them, and they looked somewhat underwhelmed. So I'd be glad to see the order meetings go online. I'd be glad to see Curia online, even Parliament. So that just to free up and maximise the actual event time, where we're actually doing event activities. In terms of newcomers and seniors, one of the best things I've seen has been the newcomer reception when it happens on usually on the Friday night. And the best one I've seen was when Duchess Isabel came in without her crown on or anything, just being the perfect hostess of grace, deliver and really very friendly, really personable to the newcomers, and it worked. And suddenly they realised that actually they've been talking to the Queen, and it gets past the peer fear, it gets past the sort of like the formality. It actually makes them feel welcomed because they've been welcomed by the most senior royal in the kingdom. Vitas might disagree with that, but I'm sure we don't. But I'd like to see more of that. I'd like to see that become part of the royal progress as normal. And that's something that I think for the chamberlains of potential chamberlains to consider as well, to understand as part of the process. And I think KU worked well online. We are looking at possible blended events, possible live recording, but there's a lot of logistics behind that. There's a lot of IT logistics. There's a lot of permissions logistics. There's certainly the concept will need to be discussed by the wider community. But I have hope. I think there are some elements that don't belong online, and we are paying to create our own bubble. So it's going to be an interesting way of trying to do that without bursting it.
And I know that there has been some people that have argued that not everybody does things online, and if you have all the office meetings and so on online, people will miss out. For me, that is like, but people can't travel, so they will miss out anyway.
Yeah, exactly. KU, we had 600 people sign up. At least 400 of them were from Drachenwald. That, in my book, makes around about 320 people who attended, who would not have normally attended the 80 to 100 attendee Kingdom University in the first place. We're in 2020 now. We've had internet for a long time. We've had conference calling for a long time. Our entire communication is based on email, whether you're actually directly emailing or you're using your email to log into your Facebook or log into the SCA website to pull down Dragon's Tail. I don't think people are missing out. I really don't. We in INsulae Draconis during the lockdown, the Facebook group expanded by over 100 people. This is over 100 new people coming in, finding out they've heard of us, they've tried to find out information, and they've found the Facebook group. I have my own issues with Facebook, and we could be here for hours.
I think we all have.
But it's those sort of statistics, those sort of metrics that I'm looking at to see what is happening, rather than what is successful, what is not successful, but what is happening, and understand our game through that.
Yeah, and I think, I mean, if we not just rely on Facebook as a platform, but we actually have our web pages, and we contribute with different kinds of platforms, and doesn't forget people that want the real life events. And if the more we can do things with variety, I think the more people we can include.
I think we need to understand that strategically. in terms of the organisation of the SCA. The census pointed to 90% of the 9,000, 10,000 SCA members who responded. 90% of them rely on Facebook for their SCA information. That happened in spite of SCA communication strategy. SCA until recently basically played catch up with Facebook. There was actually active pushes to try and not to have Facebook as a communications platform. There was then, oh, okay, we accept Facebook, but it's only an unofficial platform. We now have a social media policy that accepts Facebook. Facebook isn't fit for purpose. It misses people. It plays around with its algorithms. You can miss important information. You can have people, by only concentrating on Facebook, you're only talking to a proportion of the society. But equally, this is now actually pushing people away. We are seeing multiple platforms. We are seeing an age stratification in terms of using Facebook. The average Facebook user is probably in their 30s now. What that means for strategy is that we have to sit down and think forwards. We cannot play de facto, we will play catch up with social media development, but we need to think about it. We need to think through who we're talking to, how we're talking to, and who are we missing. We have to ask, who are we missing?
Yeah, I think that is a very important question, because that is the one that can make us include as many people as possible when we ask that who are we missing. Again, something very good for me to take with me. I will also think about this, but I also wonder a little bit, sitting here listening to you, do we have any ideas? Has it been spoken about in our kingdom about a little bit about how do we speak about this, in what context, and which people are supposed to speak about this? I do know we have a tremendously good webpage group. Where do we put the responsibility for these questions? Maybe you're the wrong guy to ask, but this is just my questions running in my head.
Anyone who's an officer. I mean, the problem with being in officers is that traditionally we're primarily there to cover the SCA's butt in terms of reporting, in terms of proving that it is a non-profit, in terms of proving that its finances are being used the way it should be and the way it's governed. But the officer role has expanded to people who are actually acting as an executive, and they need to act as an executive team, and they need to talk to each other at all levels, whether it's shire, canton, principality, barony. They have to operate as a team. They have to consider these questions, because officer actions, whether you're the marshal or the chatelain or the seneschal or even the treasurer, your actions and decisions shape the game. You are putting the framework in place. Everyone is working from your framework. And so such considerations of those actions need to be taken, and other people need to understand what you are doing as well. I really want us to get away from this vertical silo management. They need to be talking to each other. Some areas are more successful than others, but I think I still, even to this day, see the occasional officer complaining about how they're feeling isolated, how they feel like nobody's listening to them or they're on their own. And I've seen that several times with different officer hats. I mean, I've been lucky in that I've been working with some very strong personalities and very strong ideas in INsulae Draconis at shire and principality level. But even within the principality, I've seen it.
Yeah, I hear what you're saying. I'm sitting here thinking that we have had the same kind of problem in Nordmark. I have discovered the same kind of problem in Styringheim as a barony when I was living there. And I agree with you. Officers need to have a platform where they can speak to each other. Um, and I think it's also very important that um we start to think about officers as the one, because you said something very interesting to me, and that is that the officers are actually the one that is building the framework for our game.
It is a framework. It's not a cage.
No,
It's not a
not
house.
it's a
It's the
framework.
frame.
It's a framework. It's guidelines.
Yeah.
It's not a rule as much as guidelines. And I think that is also something that we need to. Sometimes I just want to show officers my appreciation, because I do think that they sometimes get a little bit lonely, a little bit forgotten, and have to play just within their area. I think I'm rambling a bit, but I think you get what I mean.
Oh yeah.
I do think that we need to speak more about it. But that is not on you anymore right now, because you don't have any office right now.
I needed the break.
Yeah, and that is also a good point. We have a sort of rule that you shouldn't sit more than 2 years, maybe 4 years.
Mhm.
How important is that rule for you?
Very important. However, I do feel that the STA is a bit inadequate in terms of dealing with burnouts, in dealing with support. Again, I think it comes back to the team. You're operating with other volunteers. You are a volunteer yourself. Real life takes precedence every single time, and I don't think the SCA has anything in place to provide support. There's some talk now of perhaps just putting together some basic training ideas, especially in terms of the IT side of the game. Equally, I feel that the SCA has a bad habit of what I call Sith Lord syndrome. You have an officer and you have the apprentice. There can only be two. There's always two. When I was at Shetland, I deliberately recruited 3 deputies in one go. Quite simply because I did not want to impose the expectation on my deputies that they will become my eventual successor. Secondly, I knew that real life got in the way. Thirdly, I wanted that capacity. I wanted deputies whose own experience, whose own interests would focus on certain elements of the Shetland role and responsibility. And I think that should apply to seneschals. I noticed that INsulae Draconis seneschal has 2 deputies at the moment, plus building a team around them. And that's the way forward. If you feel that your office is too big, get more people, build a team around you. You get extra perspective. You get people who will be bringing their own interests into the game. And as a result, you can then pass certain roles and certain tasks onto the person who's most likely to deliver, rather than you must feel obligated. And that's the word I think is the problem. The sense of obligation in the officer corps is a key element of burnout. It's a key element of not doing a good job. And if you feel obligated, you don't feel proud of what you're doing. You don't feel excited about what you're doing. And I'd like to see more in terms of our volunteer side. I'd like to see people feeling excited about how they're delivering and how they're contributing, and they need to be recognised. Whether that's, it doesn't just have to be the award structure. Literally, people saying thank you, and people saying thank you in public or in court or online. Mm-hmm. Just go out and say thank you to your volunteers. They are the ones who make sure your game works.
I think that is very important. We tend to get a little bit focused on awards sometimes, that everything has to result in some kind of award. And though I do think that the award system has its pros, it also has its cons. For me, the cons is that some people will be forgotten, for various reasons. Sometimes you just think that the person already had the award, and nobody's asking, and that can make people feel a little bit like nobody's seeing what I'm doing. Um, the pros are, of course, that you do get to officially thank the person, but there is 2 persons in the kingdom, and there's 2 persons per principalities and so on that can do this. So I do think I think that is an important thing that we need also perhaps start a little bit more, like just say thank you. And I do know that a lot of people do. So I do think that is a very good point you're saying there, that it doesn't have to be an award. You can just go up and say thank you.
I think also the other thing, it's not just thank you. It's providing extra support in recognition of what somebody is trying to do. For example, if you're trying to build a new shire or a new canton, that is a very lonely process in of itself if you're not careful. Actually proactively going over and asking, how is it going? How is your project? Is there anything I can do? That will have a lot more practical motivation than an award of arms.
Yeah.
Or especially if they're new and they're isolated and they're not in an area that's regularly supported. If you go out of your way to support them, that for me is a bigger recognition.
Absolutely.
I think that will encourage a lot more projects and a lot more motivation to actually take on activities within the SCA. I am well aware of someone in the Principality who, in spite of the sheer amount of their work that they put in, was not recognised, and they've effectively not participating in the SCA anymore, and that's a real crying shame. But because they were at a shire level, other people in other shires were not really noticing, and trying to locate and recognise those cases before they happen would be a much more powerful sea change in our culture than adding another order or adding another award to the system. We tend to reward success, but I think we need to reward effort as well.
Yeah, I think so too. I mean, in a way, I do love our award system. I do think it's a lovely and beautiful sort of a tradition we have. But it also has its cons, as you're saying. There are some people that doesn't get recognized, and that kind of make them stop playing. So for me, it's very important to speak about awards as I know that Sir William once put it very good. He said, "It's a cookie. You have done good things, you get a cookie." And there are more ways to give people that cookie. And sometimes they don't need a cookie. They need, how can I help? How can I support you? You don't need to do all the work yourself. And I also know that it's very hard for me to ask for help. I hate asking for help. So I do think that your idea about, offering help to people, if you see someone doing that.
Basically, if somebody is doing something like building a group, or doing something like building a significant art project, or building their own armor, they've already got over the first hurdle. They've already got into the effort. They've already got motivation, and that they're clearly doing it because they want to see success. But think of the number of projects that just die, or people who just get bored or leave the SCA because their effort is not noticed. Why are we waiting until they're succeeded? I think our game and our culture will be a lot better off if we were to assist and push on the efforts to get them over the line of success. Don't wait. We're not a Darwinist society.
No.
We shouldn't be a Darwinist society, but we can be, and that burns people out. That breaks people. That people who we are encouraging to get excited about the medieval world we're losing them once their motivation, or it could just be as simple as they've bitten off more than they can chew. I've done it myself. I've been over ambitious, but equally that ambition could have been realized with a bit more help, a bit more effort, and people noticing what other people are doing. I love things like the golden egg. The golden egg is a great scheme. It encourages for people thinking in terms of ambition, in terms of planning, in terms of sustaining their enthusiasm over a period of time. I'd love to see how that could be built into other areas as well. It's a great scheme.
And here I think that it's very important to make sure that you show off what you are doing and what other people are doing, like the golden egg, because that's the way for me to notice that, oh, people are doing this, and they seem to asking for help, or wanting help, and I can offer, because this is my area.
Yes.
Why I should definitely stay away from giving advice on fencing, because that is not my area. I can mostly say, you look pretty, fabulous.
Yeah, I mean, I can help out people on brewing and so forth, and I mean, I'm not. I must admit, I was very surprised at getting the Black Swan for my brewing, considering I've got so much more to refine and work out and actually replicate. I've been a lucky brewer in some of the brews that have been created, rather than someone who's actually commercial grade replicable recipes.
I think you are being a bit modest, but okay, I will let that slip.
God, what are you on?
I do think people, as per se, here in Europe needs to be a little less modest. For once, just say, I got the Black Swan because I did something awesome. I think sometimes that is important. I see that the time is running away. We just keep on talking and talking about this. It's so interesting. I love speaking about having an office and what can you do more about making an office better. And like you said, deputies, get deputies.
Yeah, get deputies, and also talk about your experiences. I want to see the reporting structure feed back to the populace. I don't want it sent up in the line and disappear into thin air, which is another reason why I think a lot of people hate reporting. Reporting is valuable because it tells people what's going on, but it can also be used to tell people what is going on elsewhere, and sharing information, sharing ideas, sharing progress and effort. And that's my call out to all officers who report back down, report across to the rest of your team, report to your members. Yeah. Tell them what you're doing.
Report up and at the right and left and down. Report in a circle.
Your reporting experience is valuable information to other people who might not have who might have encountered the same problems as you, but not thought of the same solutions.
Absolutely. And we do not need to invent the wheel every single time. There will probably someone that has invented it before. But if we don't speak to each other and report, we won't know. So on that note, I think it's time to say thank you for coming and speaking about all this super interesting stuff.
No problem. Thank you for the soapbox.
It's a good soapbox. And this is kind of the whole meaning about having these interviews, to give people an opportunity to, here's your soapbox. Here, welcome to Guy's TED Talk about officers. But I do wish that you stay away from, this is just my very friendly wish for you, that you stay away from officers a little while. So you need to, focus on some other things for a while, because I do think it's very important to do that too.
It's taken me a decade to realize is that I should be concentrating what I would like doing, what I find interesting to do, not so much what needs to be done and what ought to be done, because that's the quickest way of getting into burnout territory. Is you see everything that needs to be tweaked, needs to be changed, and you need to just don't take it upon yourself. We have a bad habit of celebrating heroes, so lastminute.com drop in to save the day, and that's not a healthy approach. We want to be collaborative. We want to this is our own game. We're doing it for our own enjoyment, and we need to feel that we are collaborating, that we are co-designing our game. We are not a service industry, and I think some people forget that the SCA is not. Everyone collaborates, and everyone that provides service in some way, but we are not in a customer-client relationship.
No.
This is our game. This is our enjoyment, and we need to understand that to enjoy it and to not put undue pressure on those things. I mean, sometimes I'm a punter when I turn up to an event. Sometimes I'll be in event staff, and sometimes I'll be working on the day volunteer. That's fine, but we are not looking for clients.
So again, thank you so much, and cheers, and I do hope that we see each other in person very soon.
That's the plan.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.